All right, so are you ready to like really step up your virtual meeting game?
Awesome.
Because we're going to do a deep dive today
Yeah.
into this guide all about how to sound like a total pro
Oh, yeah.
in all those online meetings.
Oh.
You know,
Virtual meeting.
I think we all have that experience where it feels like there's something missing
Yeah.
compared to like when you're in person, right?
Definitely. It's like we miss
Yeah. So I'm curious to see how this guide kind of,
those in-person cues
Yeah.
that help us connect.
how do we bridge that gap?
Right, right.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about this guide is that it doesn't just give you those like surface level tips. It really digs into like the psychology
Ooh.
behind effective virtual communication. So let's take virtual greetings
Okay.
as an example.
Yeah.
It's not just about saying hello.
Mhm.
It's about creating like this really welcoming
Yeah.
and inclusive atmosphere right from the start. It's like
Yes.
that first impression.
And I've definitely been in those meetings where it's like, good morning, everyone. And it's like,
Generic.
yeah, generic.
Okay.
Feels so impersonal.
And research has actually shown that
Yeah.
when global team members feel like they're really seen and acknowledged,
Okay.
it can actually boost
Oh, yeah.
their engagement.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
And their sense of belonging. So a really effective virtual greeting
Mhm.
goes beyond just like
Okay.
time zones, right?
Yeah.
It might involve acknowledging maybe a cultural holiday
Right.
or a team member's recent accomplishment or even
Yeah.
just a little personal tidbit
Yeah.
that shows you see them.
Like you actually know them.
Yeah, as an individual.
Yeah, it's like translating those little things
Yeah,
you do
it's-
in person to
Yeah,
on the
like those small gestures, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Where you ask about someone's weekend or you compliment their new haircut.
Yes, exactly.
It's about those
Yeah.
moments of connection.
It's reminding you that you're talking to real people.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's those little cues that remind us that we're interacting with real people, not just faces on a screen.
Okay, let's talk about tech hiccups.
Let's
Because
take-
I think this is something that we all experience.
Oh, yeah, those tech issues.
Frozen screens. Can you hear me now?
It's like a universal language of virtual meetings, right?
I think it is.
Everybody experiences that at some point.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And this guide actually has some really insightful advice
Okay.
on how to navigate those little tech snafus with grace.
Okay, because mine is usually panic, and then I just apologize profusely. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I'm so sorry.
So, the first thing is to have a plan, right? Like before your meeting, do a tech check.
Oh, that's smart.
Make sure your audio and video are working, your internet connection's good.
Right.
You're familiar with the platform.
Right.
All that.
Okay.
But then there are those times.
Yeah, of course. Where those glitches happen no matter what, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So have some go-to phrases. This can be a lifesaver.
Okay.
Like instead of saying, oh no, not again.
I've said that one.
Yeah.
Too many times.
Try something like, it seems I'm having a momentary internet issue. Let me reconnect quickly. In the meantime, perhaps colleagues' name can share their thoughts on topic.
Well, I like that.
Right.
It keeps the meeting going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Acknowledge the issue, but keep things moving. Right? And if you're the one hosting, it's helpful to have a backup plan.
Oh, that's good.
A
That's good.
backup plan?
Could we switch to a phone call?
Right.
If the internet completely goes down?
Yeah.
Or use a different platform?
That's smart.
Or share materials in a shared document?
Mhm.
Having those options ready to go can prevent a minor glitch from,
Yeah.
derailing the whole meeting.
Okay, so like a virtual toolkit
Exactly.
for those tech emergencies.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. Now, virtual traffic control.
Because online discussions can be tough.
Right. It can be. Like herding cats, right?
It is. It's like, is
Yeah.
everyone talking over each other?
Exactly.
Are there awkward silences?
Right.
When do I jump in?
Yeah, it's a different kind of finesse than in person, that's for sure.
Right.
And this guide really emphasizes clear transitions,
Okay.
intentional pauses, using specific phrases to kind of guide the conversation.
I've been in those meetings where it's a free-for-all.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting.
Totally. Everyone's trying to talk, but nobody's really listening.
Yes. How do you get that order and flow?
Right. So instead of just jumping in
Okay.
when you have a thought,
Yeah.
try using phrases like
Yeah.
building on colleagues' names point,
Yeah.
or to shift gears slightly, I'd like to bring up.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Those little verbal cues can actually
Yeah.
help signal those transitions.
It's like signposts
Exactly.
for the conversation.
Guideposts.
Guideposts.
Exactly.
I like that.
And just like in an in-person meeting, you want to be careful not to interrupt.
Right.
But in a virtual setting, it can be even more jarring.
Right. Because you don't have those visual cues
Stuff.
of when someone's about to wrap up.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes it seems like they're done, but it's
Right.
just a little internet lag.
Yeah. So how do you avoid those virtual interruptions?
Well, one strategy is to use the chat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, raise your hand.
You can type something quick like, I'd like to add to that, or I have a question.
That's a good tip. Okay.
Right.
So we've talked about greetings,
Yeah.
tech hiccups,
Mm-hmm.
traffic control.
We have.
There's a lot more.
There is.
There
Oh my
are
God.
virtual body language, documentation speech, team building,
Yep.
crisis management, presentations.
It's like this comprehensive toolkit for
Right.
mastering the art of virtual communication.
This is a lot,
It is.
but I'm really excited to dig into it.
Me too. Let's dive in.
Okay, virtual body language.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm a little skeptical about this because how do you have body language
Yeah.
when you're just a little square on a screen?
Right. Like you can't lean in
Like
or
a-
mirror somebody
Yeah.
through a webcam.
Exactly.
So it's definitely a challenge,
yeah.
but it's not impossible.
Okay.
You know, this guide highlights some interesting research about how we adapt
Okay.
our nonverbal communication
Oh.
in these settings.
Yeah.
It's not about replicating exactly what we do in person.
Right.
It's about finding new ways to like convey
Okay.
engagement and professionalism and even emotion.
So it's like a whole new.
Yeah, almost like a new language of
Yeah.
nonverbal cues,
I like that.
specifically for virtual interaction.
Okay. Tell me how we do that.
So one of the key elements
Okay.
is using our voice more effectively.
Okay.
Think about it. In the virtual world, your voice is your primary tool for conveying like emotion and emphasis.
Oh, get straight.
And even, you know, personality.
Okay, so it's how we use
Uh-huh.
our words and how we say them.
Yes. So instead of speaking in a monotone,
Okay.
vary your pitch, vary your pace
Okay.
to emphasize those key points, right?
Right.
Use pauses for impact. Don't
Yeah.
be afraid to, you know, put some personality in your tone.
Okay, so it's about bringing that vocal variety
Yes.
that you would have
Exactly.
in person
Mhm.
to online.
And even though we can't like mirror someone's body language,
Yeah.
we can use those verbal affirmations to
Uh-huh.
show we're listening.
Right.
Like instead of just nodding,
Yeah.
try saying things like, I completely agree with that.
Okay.
Or that's a really interesting perspective.
Right.
Be more explicit with your words
Yeah.
to make up for
Yeah.
that lack of those visual cues.
I like that.
And then your virtual background, don't underestimate that.
Right.
Like a clean, uncluttered background, that conveys professionalism,
Okay.
but then maybe a personal touch, like
Yeah.
a bookshelf. Uh-huh.
Or a piece of art
Yeah.
that can spark a conversation.
It's like your outfit for the meeting.
It's an extension
Yeah.
of your professional image.
Okay, I never thought about it like that. What about eye contact? Because that's such a big part of communication.
Yes, it is. It's all about looking at the camera.
Oh.
I know it feels counterintuitive,
Okay, yeah.
but when you look directly at that camera,
Okay.
it creates the illusion of eye contact for the person on the other end.
So it's like looking at their forehead
Yes.
when you're a kid
Exactly.
and you're nervous.
Yeah.
I love that.
The camera's the forehead.
Okay.
And it might feel a little weird at first,
Right.
but trust me, it makes a big difference. You'll seem more engaged, more present, and more confident.
Camera, eye contact. I'm going to practice that. Now, before we wrap up this section,
Okay.
have you ever seen virtual body language that made you cringe?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, tell me.
It's always when someone's clearly multitasking.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're looking down, typing on their phone,
Yeah.
totally oblivious that everyone can see them.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Like the virtual equivalent of doodling
Exactly.
while someone's talking.
Right. It can be really disrespectful,
Okay. Yeah.
especially because those visual cues are magnified online.
So, no sneaking in a quick email check during the meeting?
Be present, be mindful, and be yourself.
Okay. Meeting documentation speech.
Okay.
This sounds a little dry, but
I know.
have a feeling it's
So
really important.
There are a lot of little
Yes.
details in here that can...
It's all about the language we use to
Yeah.
manage those practical aspects, like
Yeah.
taking notes,
Right.
recording, assigning those action items.
Yeah, and those can get lost in the virtual world, right?
They can. You're in different locations,
Yeah.
relying on tech to stay connected.
Yeah. So how do we make sure those little details...
It's about transparency and setting expectations. Like instead of just starting to take notes,
Yeah.
you could say, To make sure we capture all the key points, I'll be taking notes throughout the meeting, and I'll share them afterward.
Okay, so no more mystery note taker.
Exactly.
What about recording?
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Recording can be super helpful,
Right.
but you have to get consent.
Okay.
Yeah. You could say something like, to make sure we have a record for those who couldn't make it, would everyone be comfortable
Oh, that's good.
if I recorded?
Okay. Respecting privacy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Action items.
Okay, yeah.
How do we make sure those are clear?
Clarity and conciseness are key.
Okay.
So instead of,
Yeah.
someone should look into that,
Right.
be specific. Who's responsible for what and by when?
Okay.
You know, like colleague's name, would you be willing to take the lead on topic?
I love that.
Yeah, right.
It's specific.
It's specific, actionable,
Yeah.
no room for misinterpretation.
Yeah.
And when it comes to follow-ups, be specific about date and time.
Okay.
You know, instead of saying, let's chat sometime,
Right. Yeah.
say, would Tuesday at 10 work for everyone? I'll send a calendar invite.
Oh, much better.
Right. No more guesswork.
Okay, so be intentional
Yes.
and be explicit.
Be explicit.
Okay. This has been fantastic.
It has.
I've talked about greetings,
We have.
tech, troubleshooting, traffic control, body language, even documentation speech.
Yeah.
And we're just getting started.
We are.
This guide has so much more. It talks about virtual team building,
Yes.
crisis management, presentation skills, hybrid meetings,
Lots more.
even negotiation.
Yep. We've got a lot of ground to cover.
This is awesome.
It is.
All right, so buckle up, everyone, because we're about to venture even further
Yes.
into the amazing world of virtual meeting mastery.
Yeah. Let's go. Welcome back to our deep dive, all about mastering virtual meetings. Last time, we explored, some key strategies for setting the stage for successful virtual interactions. From crafting those engaging greetings to handling those inevitable tech hiccups with grace.
We even talked about being virtual traffic controllers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Guiding those online discussions.
Yeah.
With finesse.
But now I really want to dig into the more nuanced stuff.
Okay.
Like, how do we build rapport and connect as a team
Right.
when we're just faces on a screen?
Yeah, it's a challenge. But this guide offers some really insightful perspectives on virtual team building.
Okay.
And it starts by acknowledging that those social connections aren't just nice to have. They're
Yeah.
actually essential for building trust
Right.
and collaboration
Yeah.
and even creativity within a team.
Okay, I'll admit.
Yeah.
I've been skeptical of virtual team building activities in the past.
Right.
It always feels a little forced.
Yeah.
Like,
Trying to recreate those water cooler moments.
yes, exactly.
Right. And it doesn't really translate.
We have to find a way to do it, right?
You do. And the key is to approach it with intentionality and authenticity.
Okay.
It's not about replicating in-person interaction exactly,
Right.
but finding new ways to connect and share and even have fun together in
Yeah.
that virtual environment.
So adapt those principles.
Yeah, adapt those principles.
Which is the online world. Give me some examples.
Okay, so think about those awkward silences before a meeting starts.
Right.
You're all just staring at each other's blank faces.
Yes.
Instead of doing that,
Yeah.
why not use that time for a quick icebreaker? Even something simple.
Yeah.
Like, what's everyone's go-to work from home outfit?
Oh, I like that.
Or share a photo of your workspace.
It's good.
It sparks conversation, creates a more relaxed atmosphere.
Yeah, it's like those casual conversations you would have in the office.
That doesn't have to be complicated.
Right.
You could even host a virtual coffee break
Oh, that's fun.
where everyone brings their favorite mug.
Yeah.
Or, even a show and tell.
Oh, that's
Where
right.
people showcase a prized possession
Yeah.
or a hobby they've picked up.
Oh, I like that.
Right. It's about finding those small opportunities
Yeah.
to connect,
Yeah.
even when you're miles apart.
I like that. What about those chat channels?
Yes. Those informal chat channels
Yeah.
can be gold. Encourage people to share,
Yeah.
not just work stuff,
Right.
like a funny meme or a weekend adventure
Yeah.
or just a good morning.
Right.
It creates camaraderie.
Yeah, it makes you feel like you're part of a team.
Exactly. It reminds us that we're real people,
Yeah.
not just avatars.
Now, what about celebrating accomplishments?
Oh, yes. Celebrating those team accomplishments, that's huge.
Okay.
Because in a virtual setting,
Yeah.
those wins can go unnoticed.
Right.
So make a point to acknowledge those individual and team achievements.
Ooh, like that.
Whether it's a shout out during a meeting
Yeah.
or a congrats message
Yeah.
or a virtual high five.
I love that. Okay. crisis management in virtual settings.
Okay.
Because things don't always go smoothly
Oh,
online.
right. Tech.
Chaos.
Right.
Miscommunication.
It's bound to happen.
So how do we deal with that?
Well, this guide emphasizes that
Right.
how we handle those moments can really make a difference in maintaining team morale,
Okay.
trust, and even productivity.
My default is to panic and apologize.
Right.
What's a better way?
Well, first, remember everyone makes mistakes.
Oh, that's good.
We're all human, things happen. Especially in a virtual world
Okay.
where you're relying on technology.
Yeah.
So give yourself and each other a little grace.
Okay.
Now, when a crisis happens,
Yeah.
whether it's a tech meltdown
Right.
or a miscommunication
Right.
or even a sensitive issue. Yeah.
The key is to address it
Okay.
directly, calmly, and professionally.
How do we do that when we don't have those in-person cues
Right.
to help us navigate those conversations?
It starts by acknowledging the issue.
Okay.
Don't try to pretend it didn't happen.
Right.
Just say something like, it seems we've encountered a snag, or I
yeah.
want to address this issue that came up.
Right. Create that space
Exact.
for dialogue. What about when tech issues
Oh.
completely derail a meeting?
Happens all the time, right? Have that backup plan.
Okay.
Could you switch to a phone call?
Right.
Use a different platform.
Yeah.
Share materials in a document. Having those options ready can prevent,
Right.
a minor glitch from derailing everything.
Okay. Like a virtual fire extinguisher.
Exactly. For
But-
those tech emergencies.
What about when it's human error? Like someone accidentally shares confidential info.
Ooh, that's a tricky one. But the key is to address it quickly and decisively.
Okay.
First, stop the sharing immediately.
Well, acknowledge the mistake, apologize for any concern it caused,
Right.
and then reassure everyone that you'll be taking steps to, mitigate any potential damage.
Okay, so take ownership and be transparent.
Exactly. And what about when a sensitive issue arises?
Yeah, like a disagreement.
Yeah, like a disagreement.
That escalates.
Ooh, those are tough,
Yeah,
especially virtually.
because sometimes you just need that look
Exactly. You're missing those cues.
to know that you need to de-escalate.
So be extra mindful
Okay.
of your tone and language. Avoid, accusatory or inflammatory language.
Right.
Use I statements
Okay.
to express your perspective, instead of blaming.
Right.
And if it's getting heated,
Yeah.
suggest a break
Okay.
or table it for later.
Okay, so virtual communication requires a lot of sensitivity.
It does. A heightened awareness.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about virtual presentations.
Okay. Lots of presentations have gone digital.
Oh, yeah. It's a whole different ballgame.
It is. And this guide actually goes into some research about how to adapt
Good, yeah.
to a virtual audience.
Because I've sat through so many that were just death by PowerPoint.
Yes. The speaker drones on,
Yeah.
the slides are
I'm
cluttered.
checking my email. How do we avoid that?
Well, first, remember, attention spans are shorter online.
Okay.
People get distracted more easily.
Right, yeah.
You need to hook them right from the start.
Okay, hook
Yeah.
them and keep them hooked. How do we do that?
You could start with a compelling story
Okay.
or a thought-provoking question
Yeah.
or even a surprising statistic, something to pique their curiosity.
So like a good storyteller?
Exactly. Draw them in.
What about the visuals?
Okay, visuals. Slides are still relevant,
Okay.
but you have to use them strategically.
Oh, yeah.
Avoid those text-heavy slides that just make people zone out.
Right.
Use visuals to enhance your message,
Okay.
not to replace it. Think images, charts, graphs, even short video clips.
Okay. So they complement.
settle.
Yeah. Not overwhelm. What about audience interaction?
Okay, audience interaction. That's key.
It's tough online.
It can be, because it's harder to tell if people are engaged.
Right. Are they understanding?
Exactly. So you
Okay.
have to be more intentional about creating those opportunities.
Okay.
Ask questions, get feedback, use polls or quizzes, even encourage people to use the chat.
Oh, that's good.
You know,
Yeah.
keep them involved.
Okay. What about Q&A? Those can be tricky.
Yeah, they can be tricky to manage
Hmm.
online. One strategy is to have people submit questions in the chat
Oh, that's a good one.
throughout the presentation.
Okay.
So then you can address them in a more structured way at the end.
Yeah, because sometimes they get lost in the shuffle.
Exactly. And when you are answering those questions,
Yeah.
make sure to repeat the question
Well, that's a good tip.
before answering.
Yeah.
So everyone can hear.
Okay. Hybrid meetings, that's a whole other beast, right?
It is.
Yep.
Because you're trying to manage two audiences at once.
Yep.
And the key is to create an environment
Yeah.
where everyone feels included and valued,
Right, because it's easy
regardless of location.
for the in-person people
Yes.
to dominate.
Right.
So how do we balance that?
Be mindful of both audiences.
Okay.
So for those in the room, remind them
Yeah.
that there's a virtual audience.
Right, sometimes they forget.
Yes, they do. Encourage them to speak clearly, face the microphone,
Right.
avoid those side conversations
Yeah.
that can exclude people online.
Okay, and what about the people online? How do we make them feel included?
Give them the same access to information as
Yeah.
those in the room. Share your screen clearly,
Yeah.
use a high-quality webcam,
Right.
make sure the audio's good,
Yeah.
and address them by name.
Oh.
Ask for their input.
Yeah, make them feel seen.
Acknowledge their contributions,
Yes.
make them feel valued. And just like with fully virtual meetings,
Yeah.
those informal connections are important.
Right.
You know, make time for small talk, icebreakers, even virtual social events.
Right. Bring everyone together.
Exactly. Build those relationships and that team unity.
Okay. Virtual negotiation. That's tough.
It is. It can be really tricky
Yeah.
to translate those skills online.
Because it's so nuanced.
It is nuanced, and you're missing those cues, right?
Right, the body language.
The body language.
Tone.
Yeah, those subtle shifts in energy.
Yeah. So how do we make it work online?
Well, this guide says it's about recognizing
Okay.
that virtual negotiation requires a different kind of finesse.
Okay.
You have to be even more mindful of your words, your tone,
Yeah.
how you're coming across.
Because it's easy to be misinterpreted
It is.
online, right?
Yeah.
So how do we strike that balance?
Okay, so first,
Yeah.
just like in person,
Yeah.
you have to establish rapport,
Okay, but how do we do that
right?
when we're not shaking hands?
Yeah, you're not shaking hands, you're not sharing a cup of coffee. It starts with those small gestures.
Cool.
Greet everyone warmly, ask how they're doing, maybe share a quick anecdote.
Okay.
And throughout the conversation,
Yeah.
be mindful of your tone. Use a friendly,
Yeah.
respectful tone, even when you're discussing
Yeah.
tough topics.
Okay, so set the stage
Set the stage.
for a positive interaction.
Exactly.
Okay, what about negotiation tactics?
Okay, so a lot of those classic strategies still apply,
Okay.
but you might need to adapt them.
Okay.
For example, silence can be really powerful
Right.
in negotiations,
Yeah.
but online,
Yeah.
it can be amplified, it can feel awkward.
Right.
So use it strategically. Be prepared to break that silence
Okay.
with a well-placed question or comment.
Okay. So how do we close a deal
Okay.
virtually?
Yeah,
Is there like a virtual handshake?
I know, right?
Right.
Well, it might not be a handshake, but
Yeah.
using clear and definitive language
Okay.
to confirm that agreement is key.
Right.
You could say something like, to recap, we've agreed on summarize key points. Is everyone in agreement?
Yeah.
If so, I'll draft a formal agreement
Okay.
for everyone to review and sign electronically.
I like that. Clear and professional.
Exactly. Even in the excitement of
Right.
closing a deal.
Now, before we move on,
Yeah.
any final thoughts on virtual negotiation?
Preparation is key
Okay.
in any negotiation, but especially online,
Because you can't rely
right?
on those in-person cues.
So you have to be extra prepared. Do your research, anticipate their needs, understand your own goals and your boundaries.
Okay.
And remember,
Yeah.
practice makes perfect.
Practice, practice, practice.
Exactly. The more you practice,
Yeah.
the more confident and effective you'll be.
Wow. Okay. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. Virtual teams, crisis management, presentations, hybrid meetings, even negotiation.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. But this is just the beginning, right?
It is. It's a vast and ever-evolving world,
It is.
this virtual communication.
And it's important to remember
Yes.
that behind those screens are real people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
With real emotions and needs and experiences.
Yeah.
So as we move into the final part of this deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with a question. How do we make sure our virtual interactions stay authentic and human-centered,
Ooh, that's a great question.
even as we're getting better at the technical stuff?
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the tech.
It is.
We'll be back to explore that
Yes.
and more in part 3.
Until then, keep practicing. And remember, you've got this.
We're back for the final part of our deep dive into mastering virtual meetings. And last time, we were talking about that challenge
Yeah.
of keeping those human connections alive in this digital world.
You know, it really is a question that goes beyond just sounding professional or having the right tech.
Mm.
It's about recognizing
Yeah.
that virtual communication is still human communication.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in the mute button and the screen share
Right.
that we forget there's a real person on the other side.
Exactly. We treat it like a transaction
Yeah.
instead of an interaction.
So how do we change that?
Be more mindful.
Okay.
Take a moment before your next virtual meeting
Okay.
to pause and think about the people on the other side of the screen.
Yeah.
You know, what are their challenges? What are their goals?
Yeah.
What are they experiencing that day?
It's easy to forget those little squares
Yeah.
are real people.
They're real people, and
Yeah.
those small gestures, like we do in person,
Yeah,
go a long way.
right.
So greet everyone warmly, ask how they're doing.
Right.
Maybe share a quick anecdote
Oh,
before jumping into business.
It's creating those little moments
Yeah.
of connection.
Exactly.
So it doesn't feel transactional.
It's not just an exchange of information.
Right.
It's a shared moment.
Now, what about tone of voice?
Tone of voice is huge.
Yeah.
Even though we're not physically there,
Right.
our tone conveys so much. Enthusiasm, empathy, even humor.
I've been in those meetings where it's like monotone
Oh,
the
yeah.
whole time.
It's painful.
It's the virtual equivalent of nails on a chalkboard.
It is. So be mindful of your pace.
Yeah.
Vary your pitch.
Okay.
Let your personality come through a little bit.
Okay, so we've talked about body language.
Yeah.
But how do we show those little reactions
Right.
when we're just on a screen?
You know, be more expressive.
Okay.
If something resonates with you, say so. Don't be afraid to show a little enthusiasm,
Okay.
even a little vulnerability.
Right. Like translate those little nods and smiles
Yeah,
for
exactly.
the online world.
Find those virtual equivalents,
Yeah.
even if it feels a little weird at first.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about active listening?
Active listening is crucial.
Okay.
It's easy to get distracted online.
Right. Especially working from home.
Oh, yeah.
So many distractions.
But making that eye contact with the camera,
Right.
really focusing on the speaker,
Yeah.
shows you're present
Yeah.
and engaged.
Okay. So no multitasking,
No multitasking.
even though it's tempting.
Even though it's so tempting.
What about when it's our turn to talk?
When it's your turn to talk, check in with yourself.
Okay.
Are you rushing? Are you interrupting? Are
Yeah.
you using inclusive language?
Okay. So make sure
You don't talk.
your virtual presence
Yeah,
aligns with your intentions.
I like that. Okay.
You want to be approachable, respectful,
Yeah.
genuinely interested.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what's one thing you hope people take away from this?
I hope they remember that mastering virtual meetings
Yeah.
isn't just about sounding professional.
Okay.
It's about connecting authentically.
I love that. So it's about using these tips
Yeah.
to enhance our communication,
Yes.
not to hide who we are.
Exactly. As we move forward in this world
Yeah.
of virtual interaction,
Right.
let's create spaces that are productive and human-centered.
This has been a great deep dive.
It has.
I feel like we've uncovered so many insights.
You have. To help us navigate this world
Yes.
of virtual meetings
Absolutely.
with confidence, with style, and most importantly, with humanity.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you. And remember,
Yeah.
never stop learning, adapting, and connecting.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time, keep those virtual connections strong.
And remember, you've got this.
You've got this.